We were just talking off the record about the podcast, but JW, I've known of you for some time now. Back when I was first starting my amateur career, you were actually still competing in mixed martial arts yourself.
Yep.
And then I was blessed enough to also be kind of like a pupil of one of your pupils with Mop.
Yep.
When he branched out and started his own business. And by the way, I feel like I know a lot about you through him because he's had like so many nice things to say, especially when it comes to like entrepreneurship, like when he wanted to go out and do his own thing, right. How accepting you were and how like helpful you were and how like you were kind of cheering him on. Yeah. So before we even talk about jiu-jitsu and all this other stuff, I do want to ask you that question. When you first sought out like with martial arts in mind, what was the goal? And in a lot of ways, has that goal changed? Have you achieved it? Are you still striving for it? What was young JW and JW now? Not that you're old.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I'm I'm old enough to know better now. It's really funny. I started martial arts journey when I was 16, doing karate, the traditional martial arts, doing all this different stuff. I did it because I found my passion was that. I was a pretty mediocre athlete in high school, like just doing everything that the small town. I grew up in a little town, Stillville, an hour from here or whatever. Doing all of the sports that a little town could have, but I never found that one thing that I just loved until I walked into a karate studio at 16 years old and like literally got my driver's license and drove there. Like I always had interest of it. Was never really a mean-spirited kid, but I always liked that idea of knowing how to fight, knowing how to protect myself. And once I found that I actually kind of had a niche to it, my hand-eye coordination was okay. I started winning some of these tournaments as a kid. I was like, hey, man, I might not suck at this. Like, this is pretty enjoyable. And I think it helped my attitude because once I got even more confidence, I was even more laid back. It took a lot to bother me. So as, that's in the 90s, and I start to think about, we see the UFC, first UFC I saw was UFC 2, and I'm like, what are these guys doing? How does this affect me? I knew I had to learn it. Just like everybody else in the martial arts industry, that took martial arts, we didn't know what jiu-jitsu really was. We didn't know how dominant it could be until Royler Gracie like cemented everybody and showed everybody like, hey, you guys don't know this. So that the Gracie family, Hiler Gracie being a very intelligent man and creating that to be basically a giant sales tactic for selling Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, it caught me.
Boy, did it work.
It caught me. Yeah, it caught me and everybody else in the country. So 95, I find Hiler Gracie. I do a lesson, do a seminar with him with a lot of other guys, and there went the journey. I started trying to find like real jiu-jitsu, and really in the Midwest there wasn't a ton of jiu-jitsu. So don't want to go through my whole history of like me training, but I only did martial arts because it was fun. It was my passion. It was my hobby, and I just loved it. And I loved it so much that I remember when I moved up to St. Louis when I was 19. And there was a Sambo guy teaching at a karate studio or a Taekwondo studio. And I was like, oh, man, I went and tried it out. And, of course, you got submitted a whole bunch of times like everybody else does. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm like, when do you teach classes? And they're like, Tuesday and Thursday. And he goes, I actually teach Tuesday, Thursday a day, too. So no kids, no responsibilities. I take off Tuesday and Thursday, and I'm there during the day. I'm there during the night. And, before long, those people that commit that hobby, they're getting better than the other people. And you just keep on kind of seeing that steamroller effect of like that avalanche is happening. I'm getting better and better, and I'm like, oh man, this is really cool.
At that time,
yeah.
Forgive me if you don't mind me asking.
Okay.
So you said that you originally started with karate,
yep,
and that you had spent some time basically pursuing karate, competing in karate,
yep.
And then when you saw UFC 2, you were like, yo, what is this
jiu-jitsu
jiu-jitsu thing?
Yeah.
How old were you when you saw UFC 2? Forgive me, like how many years did you spend in just solely karate before you started flirting around with the idea of jiu-jitsu?
I did karate for about 2.5 years and then moved to St. Louis. Man, I grew up pretty poor. And when I moved to St. Louis, I didn't know the culture shock of how much it was going to cost to train. And I remember walking into a karate studio, and even back then, like, again, this is 30 years ago, and they're like, what's going to be $150 a month?
Jesus.
And I'm like,
that's
what?
Insane.
Yeah. So I was like, man.
Are we talking about like what, 1992, 1993?
We're talking 95.
Oh, yeah, that's insane.
Insane. And I'm like, man, I need to look around. And I was trying to keep the same lineage, same thing, kind of what I knew, what I was comfortable with. And I really was like, dude, I'm making like $6 an hour. I'm like every other 19-year-old kid. I'm broke as a joke. Moved up to St. Louis with a love seat and a 13-inch TV. That was my life, in the back of my truck. So I remember saving up for a long time. I remember to go to that hoist seminar. I had to save up for a long, long time. Me and 3 other buddies went. We could afford one of 2 days, right? I think it was $80 or something. So I saved up enough for the 1 day and a T-shirt, right? Got me a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu T-shirt. I thought it was so cool. And I wanted to say goodbye to Hoist and his wife that were really, really nice at that day. And she goes, where are you guys going? I go, well, we couldn't afford the second day. She's like, you're kidding me. She's like, hold on. And she goes, you bought a T-shirt? I'm like, yeah. She goes, hold on. She went and talked to Hoist, came back. She goes, just come back for tomorrow. Don't worry about it. And I was like, oh, man. And
cool.
that was one of those things where it's like they saw we were nice kids. We were respectful. We were trying to do everything right. We physically just didn't have the money. So I never will forget that. If I have somebody in a situation where it's like, it is the money. And I've been there numerous times in my life up through the plateaus and valleys that, martial arts isn't going to be the most important thing. Eating and having a place to live is going to be the most. I'm going to try to help them.
Just wanted to take a second to pause the action and just tell you guys, thank you so much for consuming our content. Easy Talk is a passion project. This podcast is just a bunch of like-minded people coming together to produce some cool stuff and talk to some cool people. One of the things I would very much appreciate is if you could possibly like the video or subscribe to the channel, just because it helps us in the algorithm and ultimately to grow, to get more exposure to everybody, including ourselves, and ultimately just make a better product. Take a second, I'd greatly appreciate it, and on with the show.
So I was very blessed that was when I was 19. So this is, 95, 96. Started training Sambo in 97, and then did that for 96 to 2000. And then really wanted to know who the best jiu-jitsu fighter in the world at my weight class was. Because I was doing Sambo, but really wanted to train jiu-jitsu, right? And there just wasn't a lot available at that time anywhere. And I'm like, all right, the internet is just getting on there. And I look it up, and I'm like, who is the world champion at this time? And it says 1996, 97, 98, 99 world champion is Royler Gracie. And I'm like, well, it's pretty easy, right? ADC champion 2 times at that time. And I'm like, I just got to go train with that guy. He's the best in the world at my weight. And I want to.
Was your goal to try to become the best in the world?
No.
And that's why you were chasing
Not
training
at all.
with him?
I always chased knowledge.
Okay.
I always, this is funny. I understood that he was the best in the world, and I would like to train with the guy that was the very best. And again, like if you're a 4-time world champion in a row, that there's something special about you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what makes that guy so much better? So found out that he was coming to the Arnold Classic, and this is like in 2000.
When you say Arnold, do you mean like bodybuilding Arnold?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay,
Yep. So the
sorry.
Arnold Classic in Ohio is an event where they have bodybuilding, strongman, every kind of martial art you can do. And at that time, Hiler Gracie was throwing a jiu-jitsu tournament at that show. It was a terribly ran jiu-jitsu tournament. I mean, it was awful.
Tell me how you really feel.
Oh man, it was the first. We were supposed to weigh in at 8 a.m. No one showed up to get weigh-ins started till 11. My first match was at 8 p.m. The last match off the mat was 1 a.m.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Like people think jiu-jitsu tournaments are bad now. Dude, you have no idea. So old school guys, I'm sure some of the Vaggie guys were there. Some of the guys who were around at the same time. It was brutal, but it was the only place that if you really did jiu-jitsu where you're going to find tough competition. So we all would show up at that one place. Found out that Royler was going to be there. Begged, borrowed, and pleaded for a private lesson, and I got him to teach a private lesson for me and 4 of my Sambo students. And dude, I'm going to tell you, within that hour, it was so life-changing because I had done grappling, I did the Sambo, and I thought I was starting to learn, but I was just learning techniques. I wasn't learning principles. I wasn't learning concepts. I had this whole puzzle shattered of like glass everywhere, and none of it was together. It just didn't fit. He made it so easy to learn, so easy to do, and was such a genuine and nice individual to me and all the guys that I was just blown away. I was just blown away. And after that, after the end of it, we're getting pictures and all the stuff like we always do. And I said, hey man, I go, if I want to train the jiu-jitsu that you have, because I don't know what the hell you're doing, right? It's just a world that I don't know. Where should I go? Because he still lived in Rio de Janeiro. And he goes, hey, I got 2 guys that represent me, Megaton Diaz, which Megaton's a legend in Phoenix. And he goes, my best friend David Adiv in New Jersey. He goes, I think you and David would get along. He goes, here's David's phone number. And that kind of set me in motion of, he put that olive branch out there and said, hey man, there's that number. Go call him. Next day I called David, and David's from Israel and just a very unbelievably but unique guy. And I said, hey man, this is JW. I just trained with Hiler, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, where are you from? And I go, St. Louis. He goes, where's that? And I go, it's in Missouri. He goes, where's that? And this, he's not been in
this
the country.
This was before Google, I believe.
Oh my God. And, he hadn't been in New York very long. And I go, we're in the Midwest. I go, can I come out and train with you? And he's like, brother, he goes, come out and we'll train. He goes, okay, bye. And I was like, all right. So it was a very awkward thing. Fast forward like 5 months, I see Hiler's going to go and be at do a seminar tour along New York. So I just went and spent a week out there. And again, like I've talked about this on other like documentaries and stuff, but he decided to take me under his wing after that week and really let me become a student of the Gracies. And he pushed me to come to Brazil, which I did. He gave me opportunities to train MMA, train ADCC, when he was getting ready. So kind of to go back onto like, did I want to be the best? No. And I didn't have any illusions of grandeur, because at this time, when let's say I'm a purple belt and I'm going to Brazil, listen, man, I am trying to make a living for my family. So I was still a hobbyist, if you really consider it. I ran a club, and from probably 2000 till about 2009, I didn't really run a school. I would always lease space out of a taekwondo or karate school. And in 2009, I had some pretty life-changing events that switched, and I went full-time. I was like, you know what? I can do this full-time. But the original question was like, did I kind of see it happen? What did I want? I never wanted to teach jiu-jitsu or any martial art full-time because I loved it so much. Now, that was a big mistake, because I thought that I loved it so much that it would tarnish the fun I had, right? I just had so much fun sharing and doing the martial arts. Looking back, it was a silly thing, because like teaching is the most fun. What tarnishes it is people, right? So you have to go through all these trials and tribulations of learning what a jiu-jitsu instructor becomes. And you'll see this through MOP and everybody else and through your whole career, is we really become more than that. We're not trained to be a psychologist, a doctor, all these other things that people require of us, no matter if we want it or not. And so I've learned over from 2009 until now, I'm a coach to coaches. I'm trying to be the best mentor I can, but we can't be everything for everyone. And I keep putting that self in my coaches' ears, MOPs and everybody else, to let them know, like, it's okay to distance yourself. It's okay to, and I say this a lot, just one of my mentoring groups, is your job as a jiu-jitsu instructor or a gym owner is to be the boss, not to be everybody's best friend, right? And when we first start with small jiu-jitsu clubs and different things, you're all just a group of dudes, right? Guys, girls, we're just
like-minded individuals.
Like-minded individuals. When you go from like a school of 50 people to 350 people, you're not all going to be like-minded, right? You're still going to have the same hobby, you're still going to have the same sport. So then you have to do a better job as a manager of making sure that the only thing going on there is jiu-jitsu, is MMA, is keeping everybody's egos, attitudes, and politics out of it, and just say, hey, come here for the one blank slate of your day. So that's one of those things that it did tarnish it a little bit. It tarnished my love of martial arts, because I have to deal with, I mentor 30 schools. Okay, so 30.
God bless JW.
Okay, 30 schools are under me, like under for rank and different
Yeah.
things.
That's amazing, dude. Well done.
Some days, right? But it's one of those things where it's like, I had one of the guys I do in Texas. He asked me, he goes, "Why do you do this? Why do you take all this time that you're really not making money off of us doing this?" And I go, "If I don't, who is?" And I kind of look at it as,
Forgive me.
yes,
When he was saying, "Why do you do this?" Did he refer to the mentoring?
Yeah.
Okay, I was.
It's a mentoring. It's more of me trying to keep. I feel like I represent the Gracie family. I'm in charge of keeping some of those traditions alive, some of that that knowledge, that history, and it's like I want to make sure that Phil out in Wentzville is doing a good job knowing that history. Mop is knowing that history, knowing where you came from, knowing where we're going, knowing what our vision is for the future. And that's one of those things that again, you got to have a boss, right? Hiler's my boss, right? If he says something, I love Hiler has a line where he goes, "I don't know if this is right, but this is how we're going to handle it." And he's very honest with it. He's like, "Well, if we got to make a tough decision," and a lot of times we've been in enough tough conversations that there can be good merit on both sides of the conversation, but there has to be a decision made.
There has to be someone making the executive decision.
100%. And that kind of falls on me a lot with these mentoring these schools and stuff. So that's the kind of stuff that's the business, right? That's the business end, and it doesn't matter if you're talking curriculum, people, attitudes, how you manage, how you run your school. That stuff's no fun. It's just work, right? But you also have to realize that that's how you make a living. That's why you make the money that you do, because you're doing the tough things. A lot of martial artists don't want to do that. No. They want to show up, teach.
Most martial artists don't have the skill set to do that, JW. That's a separate skill set. To be 100%. Good at one craft, like to say like, "Oh, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu," that's amazing. Don't get me wrong. But that might also mean that you don't necessarily have the acumen or the knowledge to, do you know how to set up an LLC? 100%. Do you even understand like what kind of accounting you're going to need? Or what kind of account you want to create? You know what I mean? It's a separate skill set. And then in some ways perhaps I'm wrong.
Yep.
You could feel like you're a master in one craft, and then you went right back to white belt in another craft, and you have to symbiotically merge these two.
We have a business meeting every Monday night for all our affiliates. So we have a Zoom meeting for everybody in the country, and what this week's whole call was about was finding those weaknesses and finding people who have strengths to run that for you. And it's like we're not. I always look at it as like I can take anything back to jiu-jitsu. You're not going to be good at all of it. Okay, you're great at takedowns. Well, you're probably lacking in the guard, right? It's whatever it may be. So I can't be a great accountant, a great manager, a great social media manager, and do it all. And unfortunately, so many of these guys think they can, or they don't care, and that's even a worse problem. So if they feel like it's like, well, the school is running and they're happy with how things are, then I guess that's okay. But I'll use Phil out at Wentzville as an example. So Phil is one of the he's such a special individual, right? Just
he's a really cool cat.
Such an intelligent guy, super smart, amazing instructor, makes me laugh my ass off. Every time he teaches, he's just got a very unique way to do it. And I've seen him blossom into a good business owner over the last couple of years, right? And it's like every year I try to push him a little bit, right? Push him a little harder and make him a little bit more rigid, make him a little bit more less laid back. I don't want to take all of it away, but I want more for Phil than he wants for himself.
Ooh, that's kind of dangerous though.
It is. And that's a good way to get let down.
Exactly. That's
right?
what I was going to go with.
And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Because of him or in general?
No, because I know me. Because like if I'm constantly pushing him to be the best version of himself, and I know that there's going to be some failures along the line, it's just acceptable failures. Yeah. It's not a big deal at all. And then, I would say over the period of me mentoring schools, I've probably mentored 50, and 20 of them haven't cut it. And it's either my relationship with them or they not being able to stand by their word.
Forgive me, when you say haven't cut it, do you mean like they went out of business? They dropped the affiliate with you?
All over. Some Some have lost, anywhere from family matters to something, life.
Well, business is people.
It is. Life
So-
life is crazy. So, but I've seen it all. I've seen every kind of crazy thing that you can think coming into the academy or going out of it. And at the end of the day, you just want the best for the person. And I think if your heart's in the right place and you have an open mind and you're okay to listening to intelligent people, you're going to be successful in life. And that's,
God bless.
yeah, you got to hope anyway.
I agree with basically everything that you said, and that I find it very humbling that that's the path that you want to take, is even though that mentorship role isn't necessarily the most lucrative, and perhaps sometimes it does feel a little bit more like work.
Yeah.
I would also venture to say that it's probably one of the more rewarding things, like for you as an individual.
For sure, for sure. These people are my kids. I have 2 boys. They are my true blood. But to think that, Mop has been training with me since he was 14 or 15, So Phil's been training with me since he was probably 19 or 20. These guys have grown up around me. So I do find I am responsible in my heart, So I hope that when they look at me, that they know it's just like that big brother or that person looking out for them even when they don't want it, right? But at the end of the day, I'm probably the proudest person of all those guys.
God bless, man.
Yeah.
I want to take a step back, if you don't mind.
Yep.
When you were talking about how you went up to New York when Hiler was doing his tour, and that was when he, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but kind of took you under his wing.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? When you say he took you under his wing, was there a conversation?
Sure.
What was it about your relationship that kind of spurred this on?
Yeah. It was really funny because I didn't tell him I was coming. So I just showed up at the first seminar that he did. And it was at our friend Armando Basalti's that now runs an academy in Asheville, North Carolina. And I show up, sign up for the seminar, got the white belt on, sit down on the mat. Hiler walks in with David and a couple of his black belts, and he's just like shaking hands, and he sees me out of the corner of his eye, and he goes, JW, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I haven't seen him in 5 months, did 1 hour lesson with him, and he remembered my name. I'm like, holy cow. Talk about fanboy. I was just like, oh my God, this is my week's made, I'm done. And I go, I'm just here to train. I'd like to do some private lessons. And he kind of looks at me, he goes, okay, let's talk after the seminar. And do the seminar. First person he grabs to do the technique is me. He knows I'm going to react right. He trusts me. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is awesome. After the seminar, he's like, so tell me what you're doing. I go, well, me and my buddy came up here. I go, I just want to do a private lesson every day and a seminar every night. I go, I just want to immerse myself into it. And again, I was in a stage of my life right there and what it was like, didn't have kids, had a good job.
There was no opportunity cost.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So he goes, all right, well, why don't you just come to dinner with us tonight? I'm like,
Out of curiosity, forgive me, how old were you? Like 19, 20? Like still young?
I mean,
a little older?
A little older. So this is like 24.
Okay. So still
23,
like
24. Yeah.
past certain ages, but like still before you had any real responsibility.
I was old enough to have a great job. I was a sales rep in the building industry and lots of schedule, like open schedule. So
well, as long as you're delivering, it's an open schedule.
100%. I was a good salesman.
Yeah.
So
for you, it was an open schedule.
Exactly. So was able to kind of pick my own schedule, and I went up there, and he's like, hey, just go to dinner with us. I'm like, yeah, this is super cool. And when I explained to him again, I'm like, hey, I do want to do a private lesson every morning with you. He was like, okay, all right. And he's talking to David, and he's like, all right, David. He goes, he's going to meet us here in the morning. And what he worked out, he did this for me in Brazil too, is he would make me the very first private lesson of the morning. Okay. And he usually did 2 to 4 lessons a day when he was in town. He goes, okay, start. He goes, do you want to help me with the rest of them? So I basically would be the fly on the wall. If he needed an extra body, if he needed the person to see it from a different angle. So I didn't get 1 hour worth of lessons. I got 4 hours a day. Then I'd go do the seminar every night. So basically it was like force fed like a fire hose into my brain, jiu-jitsu from the purest, best instructor I'd ever seen in my life. To this day, he's still the best instructor I've ever seen. Just the way he can communicate and make everyone understand it. Just unbelievable. So after that week, he sits down in David's kitchen at his house and he's like, what do you want, man? He goes, you've put in the work this week. You're here to get better. He goes, what's your end goal? And I go, really? I just want to be a student. I go, if I can be a student of Hiler Gracie and just learn jiu-jitsu from you, I go, I've had such a blast. I go, that's all I want. And he goes, done. He goes, when are you coming to Brazil? I go, oh shit. So it took me a couple of years to get to Brazil, but again, like I wouldn't have those opportunities if it wasn't for him. So anytime he was in the country, it didn't matter if it was California, New York, I'd try to fly, meet him there, train for a few days. Started bringing him to St. Louis later. I think it was like 07 or I think it was 07 when I brought him in the first time. And have him in, at least once, twice a year. And that's kind of what again, me showing that I would show up and put in the work is what really made him kind of take to me. And I'm very blessed. One thing I will say that Hiler told me like 3 years ago, it's probably the greatest compliment I've ever got, especially from him. And he was like, JW goes, the big thing is if I tell you something, I tell you to do something, or you tell me you're going to do something, I never have to go back and check if it was done. He goes, it's done. And I wish everybody could be like that. I wish everybody that told me that like, hey, we're going to be here at 5:00, be there at 5:00. If we're going to meet for the weekend, meet for the weekend. Whatever that is, I just never wanted to let him down. If he gave me the opportunity to learn from him, I was going to make sure I did everything in my power to be there. If he asked me to work on something, it's a crazy thing. Like we did a private lesson in Jersey, didn't see him for 6 months, landed in Brazil, and he goes, okay, last time we saw, we worked on this. I'm like, how does he
remember that?
6 months ago. And I'm like, I'm trying to compartmentalize everything we worked on, and he still remembers my lesson. So I teach a ton of private lessons every week, and I do the best job I can to be as good as Hiler. And I know I don't, but I want people to feel that, what I felt from him, so I learned by example.
What was it that you felt? Like you were special? Like important?
I felt like he was working, again, almost like we were talking about with the mentoring. He was working as hard on my game as I was. Right? He was thinking that my jiu-jitsu was so important that he was willing to do whatever it took to get me better. And being out here in the middle of nowhere, at that time, let's say 2003, I'm a purple belt. There was no purple belts, man. It was so crazy, like how few talented, I shouldn't even say talented. I should say like how many people had gotten to the skill set yet, right? To that level. So if someone said they're a purple belt, man, you're like, oh, you're like, what? Never even heard of that,
Yeah. I didn't even know what jiu-jitsu was until 2010. For perspective.
Yeah. So and still to this day, luckily me and my wife travel all over the world doing camps and seminars and competing, and so many people are still being introduced to jiu-jitsu. And I think there's a lot of things going on. Like I see the UFC is putting a new jiu-jitsu thing together, which is super cool. Like it's going to get the name out there even more.
When I had Vaghi on, we kind of discussed that in brief where like I asked him, I said, this has to be the greatest moment for jiu-jitsu is today. But that's also like not necessarily correlated to tomorrow. Like I feel like there are a lot of martial arts that have either plateaued or have kind of, and forgive me guys, have kind of fallen off. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't get that sense from jiu-jitsu. From everybody that I see, jiu-jitsu it wears many hats. It is a precursor to someone starting an MMA career.
Yeah.
It could be, like we were talking off the record, it could be something where someone starts a business from. It also seems to be like the precursor, or I guess the thing that a lot of, when fighters are done with MMA, when they've retired from like competing, and I don't see many guys like retiring from MMA and then they're like, okay, I'm going to go still train boxing. Right. Usually everyone is done with the contact, but they're not done with the training. And jiu-jitsu seems to be that sanctuary for them. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I can still get that feeling. I can still progress. I can still learn. I can still become dangerous.
How many?
But I'm not getting punched in the head.
How many 45-year-old college wrestlers still want to go do college wrestling?
Brother, I'm a 32-year-old. Right. I don't even want to go back to high school and do high school wrestling.
So it's one of those things where it's like, jiu-jitsu translates into the gentle art. It makes sense, and you're right? There's so many different avenues. And I think that's good and bad, because now we're going to have, there's a lot of different things, right? There's still, what I love is like, I get to train a lot of police officers, right? That's an aspect of my life.
Pure self-defense.
Yeah. And that is a funny thing that when we talk about self-defense, like I feel our academy in general does really well at both, right? So we can train someone. I always say this is like, to me, self-defense is learning how to fight. Like that is what it is, right? And if you take that out of it, some academies learn self-defense and don't fight. So that's a real weak generality of like, there's going to be some academies out there that aren't very good with the rolling or the fighting part of it. And like, that's jiu-jitsu, man. When we started learning jiu-jitsu, it was like to learn how to protect yourself, to learn how to fight. And most people ended up doing MMA. So I feel like we have to be careful when we think about self-defense. Self-defense has to be concepts that I can teach law enforcement so they can control people and not hurt them. And again, there's so much to that. There's so much to the sport aspect of jiu-jitsu. Are we doing no-gi? Are we doing gi? I feel like no-gi is getting a lot of press right now, but I think the gi is growing so much faster.
I think jiu-jitsu is growing.
100%.
Just jiu-jitsu is growing.
It's
gi, no gi,
Yeah.
ADCC, IBJJF, like all of it is just growing.
crazy.
Yeah.
And it's,
It's never been a better time to be a practitioner.
not at all. And I think it was 2019. I see a Fuji medal over there.
Yeah, Mop
Okay.
made me go.
Okay. So we founded Fuji in 2015 after rebranding it from a company we did. And we threw 120 tournaments in 1 year
Jesus.
throughout the country. So we created a franchise business and it was just to grow a grassroots tournament series that could get jiu-jitsu bigger. And we're seeing that all over. Like there's probably 4 or 5 companies like Fuji now. Fuji's still doing it. I sold my interest 2 years ago to work on other projects and stuff. But we're in a beautiful time of growth. It's not slowing down. It's not mainstream yet, right? So we're not seeing it on ESPN. We're not seeing it on...
I agree and disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I think that of all the martial arts right now, hands down, jiu-jitsu is the most popular. More popular than boxing, more popular than kickboxing, more popular than any of those. Because of what I said, it's the most inviting martial art. However, I don't think it'll ever be like, I want to be careful how I say this. It is a sport that requires a lot of nuance and intellect to grasp and enjoy.
Yeah.
And when I hear mainstream, I think low bandwidth.
Right.
What is the big, think about it, the attention span of the average American is like 6 seconds now.
Right,
They're not going to sit there and watch a 15-minute roll and then be excited about a half guard pass into a full guard or something. They're going to be like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
Now you and I, we might enjoy that. Hell, dude, I
Yeah.
still enjoy whenever I'm watching high school wrestlers and I see a good blast double, I get excited, but we're the minority.
I think that it can be packaged to be exciting. I know we're probably both people that I'm always working on other projects, and I hope that I can help in some way bring some things to the jiu-jitsu table still on a world scale. We'll see. Maybe it works out. Maybe it doesn't. But I think it can. I think it can if it's
Get to the
packaged
point
right.
where it's mainstream for the average person.
I think so.
Do you mind if we?
I don't want to go into
that?
it too much.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope that a year from now maybe we can talk again, but it may not work. I don't know. We'll see.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you think is preventing it? When you say why isn't it mainstream today? What is one thing that you could maybe harp on that would be
there's really no unifying rule set. The rules are so complicated right now, and I am a jiu-jitsu nerd, so I understand every aspect of it. Most high-level competitors, and I'm going to tell you, man, a lot of high-level competitors don't really get all the rules. So my wife, luckily for me, she's a 3-time Masters World Champion at black belt, right? It's hard to get better level of that. Man, listen, she has won some matches by this much throughout her career, and she's lost some matches by that much. Understanding those rules, that it really is going to teeter-totter that sometimes. So you got to make it to where action is rewarded. And sometimes in jiu-jitsu matches, it's a 10-minute match in adults are boring. We just got back from the World Championships, and my wife's first match ended 0-0 after 10 minutes, and she won. So it's one of these things where it's I understood why she won. If you put that on TV, it'd be super boring, right? Yeah. So you got to format it in a way that it's exciting, the time limits make sense. And again, I think the UFC is trying to do that with a no-gi understanding. I think there's going to be a lot of tweaks, but you've already seen Craig Jones make the arched or the ramped ring, and so they're trying to make it to where people aren't getting hurt, they're not running out. We're still in the infancy of our art. If you think about it, 93 is when the UFC started, and we're just now getting into the sport. 96 was the first world championships. '96 was the first ADCC.
Can I ask
Yeah.
you a question out of
Sure.
curiosity?
Yeah.
I agree with everything that you said about like the first couple of UFCs basically being like a free infomercial for
yeah.
jiu-jitsu, right?
Yep.
Why do you think it was then that MMA took off like crazy and
Yep.
jiu-jitsu seems to be having this like lag in response to it getting its renaissance? So like UFC 1, 2, 3, 4 happened and it was clear that jiu-jitsu was like the supreme martial art, right?
Yeah.
This was the
Yeah.
most effective. Yet it wasn't as if like, jiu-jitsu reached new heights or everything. MMA did. So I'd be curious to like ask you, why do you think that was? Like, why was it that MMA was able to kind of, because jiu-jitsu is an aspect of martial arts, but it was so dominant, yet, it took 20 something years. And I would make the argument now, and this is why it's so interesting, is that I do think that MMA has plateaued.
Yeah.
At least right now it has.
Right.
I would agree with you, like, just like how you can think there's some things that could possibly give jiu-jitsu its rise to mainstream.
Yeah.
I think there's additional things that MMA could do to still hit new heights.
Yeah.
But it's funny to see how MMA seems to have plateaued, yet now jiu-jitsu is kind of taking off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's interesting considering 20 years ago was the exact opposite.
It's really tough because I'm lucky that I've seen it from the beginning.
Okay.
I feel that since I kind of saw everything and how it kind of developed. So when the UFC first started, and I think we can kind of all agree that the UFC hit mainstream when they did The Ultimate Fighter,
Agreed.
right? So that's what really
That's the first one I ever saw.
okay.
Was live Forrest Griffin versus Stephen Bonner.
That was like the a catalyst for all jiu-jitsu academies growth too.
You
Right.
think so?
Oh, 100%, because I was running my business then. Right. I mean, it was just like,
And you noticed it.
oh yeah, immediately. What's a catalyst, right? I'd say a couple of years from now or ago, Joe Rogan, Tim Kennedy, everyone, podcast popularity. Like, we should probably send those guys a check every week, right?
No royalty.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's free advertising. Seeing Tom Hardy, seeing
People in Hollywood.
Facebook's guy, what's his name?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Zuck doing jiu-jitsu. That is what, like, now everybody knows. It's like, oh man, I got into it. I enjoyed it. I love it. But they're not getting their face punched in. Right? And again, it's like, it's a more
Inviting.
sellable, inviting martial art. So I do think that at the beginning, MMA, had, again, these peaks and valleys and stuff, but it was because there wasn't enough quality instructors or people to actually teach jiu-jitsu. So you still had, at that time, I want to tell you, there's tons of quality karate, kickboxing, Muay Thai gyms, whatever. So if you have a good wrestler and you teach him Muay Thai, there's your MMA fighter, man. It's like that was proven that you didn't necessarily need jiu-jitsu in the early days, like Mark Coleman and Mark Kerr and all these guys. It's like, you have great wrestling and some good stand-up, you're going to be a nightmare to deal with. So I think that it filled the gaps. MMA filled the gaps with people that didn't need jiu-jitsu, and then it started leveling off. Then you had guys that were growing up training kickboxing, jiu-jitsu. They were my favorite fighter, George St. Pierre. There's not a hole in the guy's game because he trains it all. So I think that's when you started seeing, like, okay, now it's still rising. You still have all these superstars, and these guys will pull. I just think of a Conor McGregor. I'm not a giant fan of him, but I love that, like, the energy that he brings to bring people to the sport. And it's like, holy cow. I'm not big on trash talk. I like respect, but you can't help but laugh and go, this guy's selling tickets, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing something. So
I think a big reason why MMA has plateaued is because they don't have that right now.
they don't have the superstars.
They don't have the superstars.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's like John Jones and those guys are, he's a star, but he's trouble, and it's like, oh.
If I were to kind of piggyback off of that,
Yeah.
I'm kind of answering my own question, but like the same reason why MMA I think is plateauing, like, yeah, you have like the Sean O'Malley's and stuff like that, which fair, like they're stars, but they were not the level of, like, I remember for like 2 or 3 years there, And like my dad, who had no idea what the UFC was like, what's Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor doing, right? They just rose the level.
100%. Yeah.
And right now, when I say that the UFC or MMA in general is kind of plateauing, it's because they don't have the stars. I can make the inverse relationship with jiu-jitsu. I can say the reason they are growing is because you have the Craig Jones, the Gordon Ryan, even like good or bad.
Yeah.
Just drama, storylines.
Yeah, same guys.
It attracts people.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you got that's a great analogy.
I'm a casual fan of jiu-jitsu, where I am a hyper fan of MMA because that was my chosen path, right?
Yeah.
But like even I now know Craig Jones and Gordon Ryan and some of these guys, and like I'm not even necessarily following the sport. So I think that's like the greatest litmus test. I'm not actively following it, yet I still know about it.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. When in 2010 was the year I won the black belt pans. And that was the biggest tournament in the world at that time, and it was 3,300 people. 3,300. That's a big jiu-jitsu tournament, okay? Last year in Vegas, the Masters tournament, 11,000. One tournament.
It's going to fill an arena.
It's the Las Vegas Convention Center.
Yeah, so
million square feet.
Yeah.
So the biggest demographics of growth, and this is like charted in my school, I can see it, and I've seen it for a long time, is kids and 30 and over. Those are the two. Why? Parents will spend money on their kids, and if you're 30 and over, you have money, right? So that below that 18 to 30 is where you'll get the super athletes, right? And you'll get those guys that are probably in college or whatever, and they'll be the next big thing. But that's not where the being able to run a business and being successful is.
No.
So when we
JW, I would go as far as to say that MMA is not. Mop might be the poster child for having done it to a way. I want to be careful how I say this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do a little preface it here. I think people are going to hate me regardless, so I'm just going to say it. I think that St. Charles MMA, when you want to talk about bang for buck, like who has produced the most UFC fighters, and I'm sure Mop would agree with me, St. Charles MMA is the poster child for like, if you want to get to the UFC,
they've done a great job. Yeah.
However, if you want to talk about a successful business, bringing in dollars and churning out competitors and all this other stuff, who's done it better than Mop?
Yeah.
For MMA, MMA, not jiu-jitsu aside. I'm talking about just for MMA. I haven't seen. They're about to open up I think their second location for MMA.
Yeah.
I've been, I don't know of a single gym that's opened up 2 locations in MMA. Now I know a bunch of gyms that do it with jiu-jitsu because I think jiu-jitsu is more lucrative for some of the things that we talked about.
Right.
But dude, God bless Mop. Good job.
Yeah, and that's what, a 10-year overnight success, as they say.
Oh yeah.
So
he had to eat shit for a while.
Yeah, and I think that's one.
Then they'll call him lucky.
Right. Oh, that's how it works. But yeah, and again, I think St. Charles MMA has done an amazing job creating super, super tough jiu-jitsu and MMA fighters. But we all, you got a vibe. And it's like you got a leader and you got all those things. And it's like I think those guys have done it 2 different ways probably. And I'm glad they're both being successful. But I think Mop has really worked his butt off to try to be that mega school, that MMA school that like, hey, we're going to have everything that you need to be, if you want to do amateur, we're going to get you there. You want to be professional, I can take you to the UFC. So he's proven it. So I think he needed to grow into that role, right? And again, I've known him since he's a kid. So now he is that role. Now he can be that leader. Now he can have some hard discussions with people and
make some hard choices.
Yeah. And that's that's part of being a successful school. Sometimes you got to pull out the weeds and move things around.
Last time he was on, last time he was on, we talked a little bit about that briefly, and I asked him verbatim. I was like, "So, what do you think is like the biggest difference now?" And he told me, he's like, "Now it's just like." By the way, Mike said something very similar too, where he was just like, "We both of them had a very similar reaction to that question, and it was essentially like, you know what, we're tired of trying to fit the circle in the square hole. Sometimes it's okay to say, hey, you know what, we tried.
100%.
You're a good kid. Maybe you're a great athlete. All this other stuff. This ain't this place for you.
It's not the right fit.
And then if you're St. Charles, you'll be like, hey, go try Wolves Den. You might like their vibe. And if you're Wolves Den, you might try St. Charles. And that might be more your vibe. I guess the reason, and I'm going to bring it back to you, is because we were talking about specifically like jiu-jitsu schools and how it's like the kids program and then the adults. I would say that, the jiu-jitsu program is probably the lifeline for a lot of these MMA gyms. Probably. Where if they were just jiu-jitsu gyms, they'd probably be more lucrative. Like they'd probably make more money. So like the MMA is becoming a passion, and this is what scares me for my sport.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
The trajectory for jiu-jitsu being lucrative for many people,
Yeah.
that's not the path for MMA. So like a lot of times you see these MMA guys, when they're done,
What are they going to do?
it's rough.
Yeah.
But if you become a black belt in jiu-jitsu, you can start a school.
100%, 100%.
The off-ramp is there.
And you look at it though, and like, we've both seen that the revenue streams for an MMA school used to be have an MMA school and then have an MMA show.
Yes, like a promotion time.
Right, because there we go. So now there's a reason that the MMA guys make me money on the show. So it's like it's just a different.
You're creating your own labor source.
100%, 100%. So like it just I always like to tell my guys like you have to choose how you make a living. Right? We have a school down Ray Carrillo down in Dexter. So way down South Pass Cape. And he has the biggest after school program I've ever seen in my life. It is insane how many kids he runs through that school. That would drive me insane.
Really?
Oh man, you have 60 kids running around like doing stuff. I'm like, no, dude, that's I'm glad you're making a great living doing that. I'm not, and I'm going to find my own way. So it's like there's different revenue streams within any school and any jiu-jitsu, MMA, whatever. But we got to be happy doing it. And I think that's something that like people ask me all the time. Oh, I got to be more successful. I'm like, where do you want to put your time? Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about you working harder and more. Where do you want to do it? Do you want to do a homeschool program? Do you want to do this? What? And it's like, I choose how I make a living. And like, you have to choose also.
I also think that that's going to be something that jiu-jitsu will set jiu-jitsu apart from karate. So karate had its renaissance and then it had its fall off. And I don't necessarily think that jiu-jitsu, I think oversaturation in any industry is a possibility, first and foremost.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why it might not necessarily be as susceptible to jiu-jitsu is it's difficult to separate the black belt from the character. And that you might, I've heard of people that'll be like, I go to Watson's because of Kyle.
Yeah.
Not
100%.
because of where it is or whatever, because they like Kyle. And I've heard people say like, I'm going to St. Charles MMA because of Mike.
100%.
And I think that there is something to be said about not all black belts are created equal. And I don't mean that in the sense of like skill level. I mean personality. I might come in and that black belt might be just as capable as you in terms of like the actual craft.
Yeah.
But maybe I just don't vibe with him.
100%.
Maybe I come to yours and I'm like, oh man, that JW guy, we hit it off and I'm going to go there because I feel more comfortable. I think that some people might listen to that and think like, well, isn't that a negative variable? Like I could lose business. Or you could look at it as a positive one and say that even though there is a jiu-jitsu gym here and a jiu-jitsu gym there and there and there, it's becoming more prolific for a lot of the reasons you said. People have gone through it now, so now there's an adequate number of black belts that can actually proficiently train and teach it. But I think what's going to set it apart from previous martial arts is that character model. I never got that from karate because I did a little bit of karate too when I was a little kid. Yeah. And it was completely different from anything that I experienced afterwards. Like even wrestling was completely different.
Yeah, and I think that jiu-jitsu will become oversaturated. I mean, we have 6 academies within 5 minutes of me.
Do you think that's too much?
No.
Is everyone sustainable? Like, is
yes.
everyone making
money? And that's the whole thing. It's like, I can't tell you because I don't look at their books.
Fair. Right, this is all speculation.
It's all speculation, but I think we're all doing well. Yeah. And it doesn't bother me at all, and it's great to have competition because it's important. It's like, I am going to be me. And if we don't vibe, if for some reason you don't like how I structure my classes or whatever, go down to Watson, that jerk. I don't like Kyle at all. He's a terrible person. I love him. But you got to have different. Right, competition is good. That's why Burger King and McDonald's are across the street from each other. That's why it happens.
They welcome it.
They welcome it, yeah. So I think that eventually all markets will have too much, and then the weak will go away, and it just helps the stronger academies. Let
me ask the question a little differently. Then, okay. Do you think that we are approaching that, or do you think there's still room for jiu-jitsu to grow before we get to that point? Because I do think that like there's a lot of jiu-jitsu schools. Yeah. But I don't know if we've hit like, jiu-jitsu on the corner of every strip mall kind of
thing. It's really tough. I can't tell you. I think that it would be really hard for too many more academies to come in, and I'm going to say it this way because there's a lot of skilled individuals in St. Louis. Yeah. Right? I think there's markets within, if we're talking about the whole metropolitan area, there's a lot of growth still. Okay.
And that's what I kind of mean.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
saying like city or county. I'm even going farther than that. Like, I mean, Kirk Huff opens up in Arnold, right?
Yeah.
And like, I think you have your other sister Jim in Dexter. Like,
Yeah.
I think that jiu-jitsu as an industry can still grow. I guess my question now is like, how much more and where? Does that make sense?
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, it's because it becomes what does that owner expect? What are
Yes.
their expectations? So if you're in a town of 2,000 and you open up a gym and you have 40 people and that makes you happy,
That's also a great percentage
so be it.
of the greater populace.
So be it. So yeah, I mean, I've seen some. We had a school open up in Edwardsville, and Joey Walters, super technical, great competitor, super business person, and that school is growing faster than you can possibly imagine. So there was no jiu-jitsu over there, and I'm like, that's Edwardsville. That's a big town. So like now we just saw one of the Head Nod guys, I think, opened up another location in Edwardsville. And I'm like, oh, that's good. Now there's competition. Now people can try it, see what their vibe is, and go wherever. I tell anybody that walks in the academy, and they're like, well, I'm going to try a couple. I'm like, try them all. Try them all, man. Try them and see if you vibe with the instructor, see if you like how they teach. Because this is like, to me, this is like a marriage. Like we're getting in, and we're going to spend a lot of time together, and we're going to spend a
very
long
intimate
time.
sport.
Yeah, so it's like we're in there for a decade together. I hope I like you. It's going to be a long 10 years if not.
If you don't mind, I'd like
Yeah.
to kind of switch topics a little bit.
Sure.
Last time I spoke with you before we sat here today was actually at CXBJJ,
Yeah.
Adam Sella's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu show, and also forgive me, I'm blanking on his name. Adam Sella has a partner, Enrique Watson. Thank you. Sorry, forgive me, Enrique. It's not that I don't know you. I just had a brain fart. And Ann had a beautiful turnout. I mean, won her match by a submission, and it was just she was the main event. So
Yeah.
beautiful event. Kudos to you, gentlemen. But I remember I shook your hand afterwards, and by the way, I would love to have Ann on the podcast at some point too. But I wanted to ask you, because that's such an interesting paradigm to me. So like at one point you were her instructor.
Yep.
And then instructor, and then you guys built a relationship outside of jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
But now it's like she's kind of coming into her own, man.
Yeah.
I mean, she's her own black belt, like you said, like winning worlds. And at what point and how do you guys, I'd be very interested to hear how you guys manage that from the perspective of spouse, lover, coach. You have children, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
stepmom, like
Yeah.
that. And I'm not trying to get like too, like, I don't want to become too invasive,
Yeah,
but I am curious at the high level. Like, let's start with that. So, like, you started coaching her, and then you guys started developing a relationship together.
Yeah, it's a really.
How did that transcend? Like, how did that affect your relationship as her jiu-jitsu instructor? And then, you know what I mean? I'd be curious to hear some of this.
It's insane, really. That number one thing, I am lucky to have found the sweetest person on the planet. She is the pride of my life. With her and my kids, like, she is amazing, right? She is the most giving, most unselfish person I've ever met in my life. And I remember, this is before we even started dating, I told her, I go, I think you literally are the sweetest person on the planet, just as a friend, And it was really funny. Like, me was Brian Inholtz, the owner of the SEMO school and other stuff, and her, like, they were buddies. Right? We're all just kind of like friends and all this other stuff. And she was just, I looked at her as like one of my goofball friends. And that was it, And she had a split. And then later I had a split. And then we'd still, like, we would take groups to go watch movies, but we were still friends. And I remember it got to a point to where it's like we were kind of flirting and stuff. And this is one of my favorite stories because we both kind of understood what was going on. And I go, hey, should we go on a date? Just us two? Like, what?
Am I reading these cues right?
Yeah. I'm like, what is going on here? I go, or should we just be friends? And she goes, man, we're really good friends. I think we need to be friends. Yeah. And I literally, it didn't bother me at all.
No heart sinking?
Not at all, because I want to tell you that we had such a good relationship that I was like, yeah, that's awesome. No big deal. So this was at night, 7 a.m. next morning, I get a text, we should go on a date.
She literally slept on it.
Yeah, I slept on it, and then she's like, I changed my mind. So I'm like, yeah, of course, like let's do it. And
That's funny.
it's so funny. But we're in a very unique relationship where we enjoy each other and we enjoy being around each other all the time. And I don't think a lot of people do, right? And I know it's like, sure, I like to go hunting. That's my thing. I get away. She is like an animal lover.
I'm sure you guys have a Venn diagram.
Yeah, 100%. But when it comes to one thing that I noticed was she is the hardest worker in the room. She is wanting to do everything around the house. So then I go, no, you can't do everything. I want to do something. So then I start working harder. So like I felt like our relationship pushed each other to be better individuals. And she's already the best person on the planet. So I'm the one picking up like, hey, I can't have you doing everything. Let me help. Let me help around the house. Let me do this. Let me do that. So I just felt like I'm like, oh man, she's making me a better version of myself by being her. And of course I was wondering if the dynamic at the gym would change, right? Right. And that's the big thing here. And it hasn't changed at all. So I'm still the instructor. I'm still the boss. And she has always respected that. And I think that's such a big thing that like, she didn't come in and be like, hey, now I'm the boss's wife, whatever. She takes a step back. She's like, what he says goes. I'm going to do what he says.
Understanding those boundaries.
100%.
And I don't mean this in a negative way, but like knowing your place.
Knowing your place, 100%.
You know your place. When you're at home, she knows her place. And when you guys are at the gym, she knows her place. You know your place. When you're out and about, everybody understands that role and they have that mutual respect for one another.
And I will say everywhere we understand the other person's strengths, understand the other person's weaknesses, and we're always trying to lift the other one up and never bring them down. And it's like, never in my life had I been in a relationship like that.
A healthy one?
Kind of. And been like, man, like this is amazing. So we've had, we're almost married 2 years now. And
Mazel tov.
Yeah. I just, again, it's been. I
didn't know it was that recent. Forgive me. I thought you guys have been married for like 5 years now.
Yeah. We've been together 6.
Okay.
So, yeah. So one of the things that,
forgive me for asking, had you been married before?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Married for a long time.
One marriage before this?
One marriage before this.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where my 2 kids come from.
Okay.
And again, like that's things come and go. I am blessed to have those 2 children from it, but I'm very happy on the other side of it.
Well, can I ask you this?
Sure.
Sometimes men will go through like a marriage, and then if the divorce ensues, like it kind of spurs them a little bit, right? Like I've seen men that are good men. They don't hate women. They don't turn into women haters because of a divorce. What they turn into is kind of like a disillusioned with marriage person, if that makes sense. Can you talk a little bit about how you had a marriage first?
Yeah.
And then that one didn't necessarily work out as you wanted. Obviously you have 2 children and God bless for that.
Yeah.
But then can you speak a little bit about like the precursors to get married again? Was it difficult for you? Because of Anne, was it easier than you thought it would be?
Yeah,
because marriage is a big step.
Man, marriage is a big step, and I can for sure. I've seen so many people go through divorce and the nightmares. Oh, it does change people, and it's very sad, and it's unhealthy for so many different reasons. And I feel bad for both parties. Right? It's a bad deal.
3 parties: you, her,
and the kids. The kids, yeah. But I'll say, from my experience, like getting through that is always a battle, right? And you end up finding out really who has your back and who doesn't, right? And it's always one of these things where it's like that's another struggle. That's a struggle of like losing lifelong friendships, losing things that you wouldn't think that you do, but you grow. Anytime that you have struggle, you grow and you find out what really matters. And my relationship with Anne made getting married easy. Right. It was one of those things where, again, our relationship is so healthy. We both want to be around each other all the time. We have the same hobby, the same, we share the same job, but she has a full-time career also, so you'll have to ask her about that. So I wasn't jaded, because I wasn't taking my previously bad relationship and looking at what that was going to become, because my relationship with that other person was totally independent on how they treated me, I treated them, the situation. When I got to the new relationship, I was like, whoa, this is completely different. Like, this is not even the stretch of the imagination.
Culture shock.
Oh my gosh, right? So I just took it upon its own merit, right? And I kind of look at that from.
That's very mature, though. You say it as if it's easier. That's kind of what I was saying. Is like I know a lot of people that don't do that.
Yeah.
They carry that baggage. They bring those demons with them. And I've seen people go from a bad marriage and then kind of carry some of that on their shoulders and then ruin the next relationship that could have been good because they're not ready to let go of some of these things. So like you say it in kind of like a nonchalant way, and perhaps it's a reflection of the relationship, right? But I do think that you should kind of take a step back and say, hey, this could have easily not been the case.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it's very mature to tackle it that way.
I think it's a way that I try to handle most of conflict. Let me give you an example.
Logically?
Well, let it go. Once that conflict is done, let that shit go. Move on to the rest of your life. And so I had to get on to one of the purple belts that were visiting one day at the academy. And he'd never seen how I handled it. And I basically said, hey, man, like, I'm not going to get into it, but I was like, whose school is this? He's like, yours. I go, why are you trying to make rules outside of my school's rules? And he was like, oh. I go, you get it? He goes, yep. I go, okay. And he was like, it's over. I got scolded. You mean we're not, like, I'm not going to be mad at him. I'm going, hey, man, didn't we fucking address it? Like, we got through that. Then why harbor it, right? So I kind of look at it as like, man, for me to hold on to any kind of negativeness, it's just going to sink you. It's just going to carry you down and sink you. So I feel bad for people that have to carry some of those negative emotions and can't get rid of it.
I would just say that that's a skill set. I don't think that everybody has that, but I think that is something that if people did have, I would like to think that I am the same way. I am very much of like, that was yesterday. I don't care. Like move on to the next, dude. Like I got other shit on my mind. Like I can resonate with the way you say that. I always thought of it as like a logical thing. Yeah. Like I always thought like we had our interaction, we had our conflict. Now it's the resolution. Right. Why are you still on conflict? I don't 100%. Give a fuck. Like, let's go. Let's go. What I mean?
But that's, generality. Some people like drama. Some people like whatever.
Very fair.
It's like whatever that person's into. We're too busy moving forward, right? I'm never looking in the rearview mirror, right? And it's like I've always looking forward. It doesn't matter if it's the business, the family, whatever we're doing. Hoyler says it. He goes, dust always collects on what's sitting.
Oh, I like that.
Right? And I'm like, done. Yeah.
Your relationship with Ann blossomed, and then we were talking slightly about how the boundaries are there, the respect is there, but I would be curious to ask you, like, how did it, if at all, change the way you coach her, and more specifically, before she was a black belt and after she became a black belt? Yeah.
So, her weaknesses, I fill those gaps with coaching, okay? And I'm going to give you an example. She hates watching footage. She does not like watching tournament footage, doesn't like breaking down videos. I love it. I love to break it down and know exactly what the person's doing, what their tendencies are, how long they last, stronger in the beginning, weaker in the end, whatever it is. I want to know everything about it. So with her not liking to do that, just going out there and knowing what she does, how she does it, I can put her in a position that the game plan is my job. I tell her these are what you have to expect. Her job is performing. So we've kind of split it to where we both know our roles, and it's taken a while. And it's not that we've never stepped really on each other's toes or tried to. I'm not an overcoach, right? I try to give you educational information. You're the one going out there doing the hard work, right? You got to perform. You got to do what you do. Winners do what they're good at, right? Losers are usually trying to stop what the winners are doing. So, especially for her, like everybody in the world can watch 10 videos on her and game plan. You still got to stop it. And that's the tough part, right? She's at that level of elite and like probably the best one of the best in the world at what she does. So, it's hard to stop those people. But I still got to tell her on those tough matches, like, hey, you're going to spend 6 minutes wearing this person down. Like, don't give up doing what you're doing because it's going to happen at this mark. Or, hey, this person fights left-handed versus right-handed. You don't want to be getting into trouble. So the things that she has to be the one that gets up at 6 a.m. and does cardio. Yeah. She has to be the one that's in the gym twice a day.
So that she can execute on your directive. Boom. Agreed.
So I'm just a coach. I'm not doing anything. Now, what's awesome is we love to travel. Her competing is super fun for both of us, right? So we get to go, for her to qualify for the adult worlds, we had to kind of smash together. My father passed away, and we had,
sorry.
yeah, thanks, man. And we kind of like had to rechange our schedule and go, we're not competing for 3 months. We're going to have to compete a lot in a couple week period for her to get enough points to do the adult world championships. Boston, Orange County, lots of travel to get enough points. And we just have each other's roles down so well. Like, I know that she's going to pack snacks for us both. It's like, I'm never going to have to worry about having a protein bar. It's in her bag, right? When we get to the venue, I'm going to tell her when we need to start warming up. I'm going to tell her what to do when she's warming up. And I'm going to ask those follow-up questions of, are you feeling warm enough? Are you still sweating? Are you ready to do this? How's your grips feeling right now? That's the kind of stuff that it took us a year and a half of like, let's get the right warm-up routine. Let's get it down. And now it's just like us showing up, doing our jobs, and hoping that no other variables get in the way of performance. So yeah, I think it's very unique. I don't overcoach her. I don't overboss her. I know that she knows what she's doing. But if there's something in the match that is very poignant, I'm going to tell her, right? She's going to hear time and something that's super important. Like, she shouldn't be listening for me, but she knows when I say something, it's like, we got to make a change. We got to do something different.
Quality, not volume.
100%. And I think that's, and you watch young jiu-jitsu coaches, they're coaching the whole damn match, man. It drives me insane, but I'm like, keep telling us both but everyone hears what you're doing, So everybody's got to find their role, and everybody's got their own coaching like way that's right. I know what works for me and my team, and that's what I try to do. But we've always had that really good relationship that I'm the coach, she's the competitor. We kind of put those faces on at that moment, but I'm also able to have a lot of patience, man. And this is something. How old are you right now?
I'm 32.
32. So I'm 49, getting ready to turn 50 in January. JW at 32 was not as a patient man, right? I was a different individual, right? And our relationship is probably the way it is because her at getting ready to turn 33, right? She's your age, is already an old soul, very mature, very like she just is been mature since the day I've known her, but like even older soul than what she is. I am at the point now where I'm probably laid back 10 times what I was at 32, right? So it takes a lot to ruffle my feathers. It takes me a lot to make a rash decision. I just don't do it. I want to calculate everything out. So when she's having a bad day, when she's cutting weight, right? And she might cut weight for weeks, right, to get to a certain weight class. She has said it a million times. She's like, man, I'm sorry I'm being in such a bad mood. And I'm like, you're not. You're not. But like her bad mood is nothing to me. It's like, you're still a sweet person. It's great. But I know that weight cut passed, right? I remember cutting down 20 pounds and how hard that is. So that empathy that I have for her and what she's doing is like, I'm not going to go have a cheeseburger in front of her, right? I'm not going to say,
you're not dumb enough to.
100%. And it's like, I'm just there to be the support of a person who's trying to do something great.
I think timing, and you're kind of touching on this, but timing is such an important aspect of relationships. My wife and I, we knew each other all throughout middle school and high school, and we even went to the same university together. She studied engineering, I studied finance, but like it never happened. Like we were friends, we liked each other, very respectful and all that stuff, but it took, I say it all the time, she needed to wait for like 27, 28-year-old me.
Yeah.
Because 25, 24, 23, I was just not the guy.
Not ready, not the same person.
Yeah, exactly. And more importantly, I think it's also like she got a little bit like more, she would probably say this, so I don't feel bad saying this, like she also developed a little bit more sympathy and empathy because she was like a tough woman, you know what I mean? Like, these are my standards, this, that, and the other. Right. And I told her, I said this story many times, but like when we first started dating, it was almost like an interview. Like, this is what I want. This is what I have to offer. This is what I'm looking for. Is this something that you want? Yeah, I mean, because I didn't want to waste time. I was already 28 years old, and I was like, I want to find like a woman, and I want kids. Like I knew that. I knew that I wanted to be a father. That's awesome. And she was like the one girl that I was like, hey, I've known you for so long, But here's the thing, though, and I hate saying this, though. It took, like, thank God she had the patience she did, and that no one else jumped on it. Because maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't. Whenever my daughter gets to a certain age, I'm going to tell her, like, you have no idea how lucky you are to be here.
Right.
Because there are so many variables that could have happened throughout this. Maybe she found someone else that she fell in love with. And maybe I would have never matured. Maybe I was like the same guy until maybe 49. You know what I mean? Like, who knows?
Yep.
Everything had to have happened the way it did for us to arrive at this point, and I'm just so monumentally happy.
That's what's called a blessing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost like divine intervention.
Well, and I think that's everybody that's happy should feel that way. Everybody, I mean,
like they're lucky.
I mean, I feel like I am the luckiest guy in the world. Every single day when I wake up, and I know that the coffee's already made, and I'm like, I have a beautiful woman to go walk to, hug, kiss, and say good morning to, and she's going to bring a great attitude to me. Coffee's there, and it's just a great start to my day. And it's like every day I look outside, rain or snow, shine, whatever, and go, you're a lucky dude. So, the world, things have to work out, and sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it like doesn't go on our plan, right? Doesn't go on our schedule, but it all works out.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree. So long as you're willing to put in that effort and still look, because I think a common misconception is that like love will find you.
Yeah.
Yes, if you're looking. Like if you're putting in the time, if you're putting in the effort, like you were saying, like you guys were already friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you kind of took that leap of faith. But had you never taken that leap of faith, maybe it wouldn't have never happened. So like,
who knows?
It goes back to my thing of like how many variables could have occurred for it not to be the case.
Yeah.
Therefore, for it to be the case, I do feel like a lucky guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, we got really sappy.
Yeah,
but my
hey,
E levels are going up.
Yeah, that's an awesome thing, man. It's like if you can have, like you said, a healthy relationship and be happy in it. Again, like this, we live in an amazing, like we're flying through space on a speck of sand, and like
found the one person that's your muse.
Yeah, how awesome is that?
When you were saying that she was the person that kind of like forced you to become a better version of yourself because like you saw like the aspects of her, like that is exactly how I feel about my wife. Yeah. Like the man that I am today is a direct reflection of her.
Yeah.
If I didn't have her, I don't know if I'd be here, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the fact that you said something that I was like, yep, I know exactly how you fucking feel. Yeah. I love that, man. If you don't mind, though, I would like to put a cap on it with this one.
Yep.
She's a black belt now, and I understand from the perspective of competition, and maybe because she has like a career outside of jiu-jitsu, like this is like, has she ever expressed interest in like opening up her own gym or possibly doing this as like a full-time job? And
we have talked about it many times, and it'll go back to, it'll probably be my fault that she never does, because she sees me deal with the human variable every day. Okay, so like
she sees the not so sexy part.
She does. She gets to see, like, you know, I think I had talked to 10 school owners in one day, and every single call was a pain in the ass. And it wasn't that it was my pain, but I'm helping them through their pain. Yeah. So she sees it multiplied of, it's not just coming and teaching jiu-jitsu. So she teaches quite a few classes at my academy. She runs the women's program, helps me every once in a while with kids, fills in some gaps in the schedule, but she doesn't. Oh man, again, like I'll brag about her every minute. She doesn't need the sun on her face, right? She does. So many people need to say, "I'm the instructor, I'm the professor." She's happy just being there and being an individual and knowing that she gets the joy of a jiu-jitsu school, right? Of having friends and training hard and trying to push herself, but being a mentor to all the ladies and the kids and the things that she enjoys that. But I don't think she ever, I've talked to her many times, and we had an opportunity that she could have kind of fell into. And I'm like, hey, I got to put this in front of you because you're kind of like the next logical person. And she was like, haha, no way. No, I want no part of it. And it was like, all right, but I'll put more opportunities in front of her.
It can also be, like we said, timing. Maybe she's not wanting to do it today at 33 when she's still competing. Yeah. Maybe when she's like 45 and she's
in
like
10 years, maybe so. And it's like
different story. Maybe
we never know where we'll be in 10 years.
Fair. Dude, I don't know where I'm gonna be next week.
Yeah,
brother.
Yeah. So it's one of those things.
That's a very poignant line. Is like, this is a stretch now.
I will tell you that my school gets better every year from a managerial standpoint because she's involved.
God bless.
You know, and it's like there's things behind the scenes that she does without being asked that just make it look like the transition of everything runs smooth. She doesn't want any credit for it. She doesn't want to be involved in it. She just wants to help where she can. And I think what a sweet person. But we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell. And she is one of the best instructors of teaching jiu-jitsu I've ever seen. But she's happy knowing that she doesn't know it all. She's taught every time she's teaching a seminar, she runs the whole seminar by me. She's like, "What do you think? What do you think? What does this work? You know, should I do it this way?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'll give her my opinions, and then she'll twist it and do whatever she wants to do. But I appreciate she still has that confidence to go and know she doesn't know it all. Still want a point of view.
The greatest teacher is the forever student.
Oh, 100%. So yeah, I think she's really enjoying it, and you know, I think she's coming probably to the end of her adult competition. She'll probably compete in the Masters for a few more years. We'll see. You know, I mean,
I was going to ask you that. Like, what do you think that prime is? Because I know for like MMA, they say it's between like 28 and 32. What is it for jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I think you could still.
And obviously, different weight classes, different genders. So like, this is like a broad thing. But you think she's 33, right? So like, how many more years would she? And this is kind of a tough question because now I'm asking you questions like on Anne's behalf.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, how much longer does she want to maybe compete at this level? You think?
I don't think it's determined yet.
Okay.
I think she still feels so good that.
And she's obviously doing well.
She's really well, yeah. And this is the first. It really sucked. She had been very dominant at the adult level this year. In a week, really the Tuesday before we left, she messed up her hand. She got injured right before the World Championships. So I think she doesn't feel like she went out there and was able to do what she knows she can do because she literally couldn't really. The ligament in her hand kept snapping, so she couldn't quite make a grip. So I think she may go do it again next year, just because like I think it's a little sour in her mouth that she's like,
The
man,
fire is burning.
yeah, like she ended up losing to the world champion Prodigy this year, which is like sometimes that's the bracket, that's how it works, you know. So we'll see. I think she's good enough to be on the podium of any event in the world, at the World Championships included. So I think she's got a couple more years left if she wants to. She loves working out. She loves being ready, and she is the most. When I say most competitive with herself person. Like she doesn't like to be lazy. You know, she just like
accountability.
100%. Like if she can, and that's the good and the bad. It's like, she can't sit still, right? So if she's not working, she's like, oh man, I should be working harder. I'm not prepared enough.
God bless. It's a good problem to have.
Amazing. We did a study. We got real lucky, and before she had won a world title, we were trying to figure out like how to get the most out of her training, right? And we got lucky, and we got put in with the head of Red Bull athlete worldwide. I mean, this guy is talking to Formula One guys, their cyclist team.
Red Bull meaning the energy drink.
Energy drink, yeah. So the head trainer for Red Bull athletes worldwide, we got some time with him. And very thankful for a friend of a friend, right? And he sent us this unbelievable amount of information we had to fill out and just like go through like every workout, everything we're eating, whatever. Went through the whole thing, and he goes, "You're not resting. That's what you need."
Overworking.
Yep. He goes, "Your brain is telling you need to work harder. Your body needs to rest." We changed a little bit, and she won her first world title. And then she won a second and a third. So, yeah, man, it was one of those things that was so hard for her to hear that, you know, and that go person, like sometimes it is like, just let your body recover. Yeah. So it's always interesting, and we'll see what time brings. But right now she's happy competing, helping at the academy. And again, with jiu-jitsu, it's like, especially high level, you'll see competitors that really become selfish sometimes, and they're so focused on them and them getting where they need to do, they don't put back into their school or their training partners, and
they don't give to the program that gave to them.
100%. And I've had some myself, man, that were just selfish people, and you have to have the conversation with them.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think it's selfish, or do you think it could possibly be ignorance? Perhaps they don't understand
It's both.
That that, because I wrestle with this a little bit myself.
Yeah.
Like, so I coach wrestling at my old high school,
Okay.
partially because of my old wrestling coach, and then also partially because I'm like, I have an affinity for wrestling. Without wrestling, I would have never gone into an MMA
Yeah.
gym. We wouldn't
You
be
love
talking
it, yeah,
today, right?
yeah.
But more than that, I feel like this responsibility, because it gave me so much that I need to kind of give back.
Yep.
But that's the thing. Like, no one told me that. No one forced that on me. It's just something that I kind of that pulled me. If someone felt like that, I could resonate with them.
Yeah.
But if someone didn't feel like that, I don't necessarily think that's like a selfish mentality. Now, this is a little different because it could be towards a school. And that's why I'm asking you the question. Do you think it's selfishness, or do you think possibly it's ignorance? Like, they don't know what they don't know. They don't see that.
Okay. So I think I'll try to explain myself when I say this. And it's so funny the way you said that, because it's selfishness until educated, and ignorance after you've been educated to do the same thing. Okay? Let me say that again. So if a person is being selfish and you have that conversation with them and say, hey, listen, like, your time was there, right? If you're an MMA guy, you had your camp. Now it's time to come in and be a partner, right? And you still don't. Well, is that ignorance? Is that stupidity? Or is it true selfishness? I don't know, because every person is a little bit different. I'll say whenever I've had conversations with people, they either see it and be like, oh man, I do need to put time.
Right.
You're right. You're right. Or they just like, I'm here for me. Right. And if you're here for me, that's the people I'm like, move on down the road. Right, man. You gotta build a mentality that we all grow together. So there's two ways to make a champion. Put all the toughest dudes in the room, fight until one's the toughest, right? Or put a whole group in the room and you all build each other up slowly and you get better, and everybody in that room has the opportunity to be a champion. That's my mentality, right? We're going to be technical. We're going to be all those things, but we're taking everybody with us. And it's a tough thing in the sport, right? And with Ann especially, it's like, she is so conscious of that. She's like, I've worked really, really hard. It's time to put that time back. And she literally says it. It goes, I'm going to go work with this person, this person, this person, this person. I want to work on this with them because they, and I'm like, got the right attitude. So you hope that others around see that
and
right?
mimic it.
And I'm better, again, like the 40-year-old JW is better than the 30-year-old JW, of showing people that when it's happening and saying, guys, thank you for helping. Now it's time for us to help you again, right? And that you should always want the better. Like, I want the best for my students. I want the best for my affiliates. I hope they want the best for me. And if it's going both ways, we're both going to have an amazing relationship.
Yeah, it's built on mutual respect.
100%.
It's interesting to put it that way. I agree with you that, like, I think you're right. I think it can be ignorance, but then, like, once it's presented to them, like, people don't know what they don't know. But
100%.
once it's presented to them, if they are still not acting in that interest, then it's like, dude, well, now that's you.
Yeah.
That's a cognitive choice you're making.
It's growing up and maybe not having, I'll say this a couple different ways, but anytime someone enters a combat sports school, no matter if it's MMA, jiu-jitsu, or whatever, it may be the first time they have adult relationships. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So do they know how to talk to people? Do they know how to interact with people? Dude, I've seen it 100 times they don't. They're maybe they're awkward. Maybe they just really haven't been managed, right? Maybe they just don't know how to communicate with people. So they're learning. They're learning so much. I don't know about you, but like, I have learned so much from so many different people along the way, right? And half of those people taught me because they were doing the opposite, right? They were making choices that I was like,
Not doing that.
That doesn't seem smart. I'm probably going to stay on this side of it. So we can't, that person that's making the mistake, that guy's selfishness may show someone else in that academy, oh, I don't want to be that person. And it may help the whole environment grow in the right way, in the nurturing way. But it's managing.
I think there's a quote that says, like, the dummy doesn't learn, the intelligent man learns from his mistake, but the wise man learns from the mistake of others.
Oh, yeah.
So sometimes it is good to kind of have, this is going to sound shitty, but, like, sometimes it's good to have a bad apple or two to remind everybody that negative reinforcement, like, hey, this is how it could be.
Yeah, and I'm sure Mop has done this. I have
just got to make sure that that bad apple doesn't turn into a cancer.
Well, yeah, and let's take a look at it. It's not even a bad apple. It's an uneducated apple. And they do something in the academy that just isn't right. It's not mean. It's not malicious. It's just not right. So you could walk over to that person and say, hey, this is not what we're doing. My coaching mentality is I want to make sure everybody in the room knows what just happened. Why? Because everybody's going to learn from your mistake.
Yeah.
And I'll say it in a funny way. I'll say it in a silly way or whatever. And we always joke about this. It's like a white belt giving me a jiu-jitsu opinion. Your job as a white belt is to not give opinions, not give instruction. It's to shut up, work hard, show up, right? So those are the kind of things that you're like, oh man, we're going to educate this white belt, and everybody in this room is going to learn that is not the right way to handle yourself. So that's the kind of stuff that helps the whole academy.
Let me ask you this, and this will be like kind of the last question on jiu-jitsu. Forgive me. We've kind of been flirting around with this, with the discussion of Ann, and then the discussion of like how you got into jiu-jitsu, but how important would you say it is to set a certain culture in your gym?
Yeah.
And when I say set, it's because you're the owner. So like, it's not actually, let me take a backtrack. If you don't set it, someone else will, right? Like that purple belt that you said was like trying to make up his own rules.
Sure.
So how important is it for you as a leader to be like, hey, for better or worse, this might generate 2 people leaving the door today, but this is how we're going to do it. This is the standard that I'm going to set. This is how we're going to go going forward. How important do you think that is to set the culture?
Yeah, for
it doesn't have to be a jiu-jitsu gym. It could be MMA, whatever. But
well, I think you'd probably get the same answer out of most people, but the cultures that they set are so different, right? Everybody's going to say, well, sure, you have to set that culture, but I'll take a look at it as there's cultures within the jiu-jitsu that they promote drug use. They promote all these other things.
PEDs or like marijuana?
Marijuana, whatever. Okay. Let's just take a look at like Eddie Bravo, right? I mean, in his book is like forwarded like a promotional thing about using marijuana and all this other stuff. You have to choose the culture that you think you want to bring in, and it may be 180-degree turn from what I believe. So is the culture important? Yes. Are you going to get like-minded individuals that follow that culture? Yes. So
can you elaborate a little bit on that for me? Because I'm a little so are you saying that like if for yourself I want to be careful how I word this. Like, so I'll use me as an example to make it like kind of more ambiguous. Let's say I don't smoke weed or I don't consume any sort of cannabis products. Yeah. But the people that come to my mats do. Yeah. Are you saying that you're facilitating that culture even though you don't necessarily agree with it? Or are you saying that you would change the culture in the room and be like, hey, you guys can't be coming in here high? Yeah. Like, what are you saying? Forgive me.
Let's take a look at it this way. I want to try to create an environment that is family friendly, right? Enriches and nurtures as many people to have a quality space that they never have to worry about politics, religion, race, any of these things, right? I want it to be
sanctuary,
a blank slate of life where the only thing that you have concern on you is jiu-jitsu, right? And that's, I don't want to go into like the gi colors and all that stuff. That's why I love the white gi, right? If you don't take a look at it, is like, I've even heard people like, I saw things saying, oh, Gordon Ryan has made, only gi colors for his academy. And I wish that every one of our academies would go white gi only. Plain white gi, nothing more. And I'm going to tell you for a simple reason. If we only make it about the jiu-jitsu, then that's all it's about, right? That environment, the instruction. Where if you come in with your $500 super gi, all different designs and logos, what attention does that bring? It's like a kid with a new pair of shoes at school that he could afford the Jordans and I couldn't, right? It's like, so he got that shine. You want that shine. Sometimes people do it with clothes. Some people do it with whatever. I don't want to make it about any of it. Just make it about the jiu-jitsu. So if we have to both have the same plain-ass white gi on, what are we worried about? Jiu-jitsu, okay? The environment that we're trying to create, okay? Now, with that being said, there are going to be instructors that promote smoking weed mat side, right? There's been events that have been held where it's like, oh man, like we're going to a weed store or something like that. It's just not what I want to create. I don't care if people do that. Like, that's you, but we're all responsible for building that sanctuary that we feel is I feel is protecting for people. Some people might just be opening a school to have other friends come over and smoke weed and do jiu-jitsu. So be it. That's their culture that they're doing. Could you put would you want your kids around that? Would you want your kids sitting beside them in that? And it's like, that's what bothers me. So I feel that I'm pretty straight-laced, man, and I feel that I don't try to put any of my own thoughts on anyone else in any way, because why listen to me? I'm a jiu-jitsu instructor.
Well, you're saying the opposite, because you're not saying that you're creating a space where your beliefs are being upheld. Right. You're saying that you're creating a space with no beliefs. The only thing that we're coming in here to do is
the belief of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, tap, knuckles, let's go, boys.
That's it. But within creating that just blank slate, okay, what do? You create a lot of rules. Okay, so now you're not wearing the zebra-colored gi. You're not wearing the pink gi. You're not wearing all these things. And I remember one day a dad brought his little girl in with their brand new pink gi, right? And I go, hey, man, that's a really nice gi, but you're going to have to use that just when if you guys train at home. And he's like, oh, man, why? And I'm like, see how all the kids are reacting like right now? All the kids are looking at her because she's special. I go, I want her to be special because she's happy, because she's a good kid, because she's good at jiu-jitsu. I go, I'm not making it because you guys can afford a pink gi. And he was like, oh, shit, I'm sorry. And I'm like, no big deal, but help me create that environment.
Let me present to you a slightly different argument just for conversation's sake.
Yep.
Let's say, going off this white gi analogy, and I think that the concept makes sense to me, but let's say you have like, I'm going to use Ann as an example. Let's say Ann gets like these sponsors.
Yeah, okay? 100%. Yeah.
And now the gi and what you're having on there isn't just necessarily a reflection of the gym, but it's also a business.
Yeah.
How would you handle something like that? What if Santa Bull wants to sponsor them and it's like the exclusive black gi?
Yeah.
Would you prevent that?
Oh man, it's a real complicated answer.
Forgive me.
Yeah. It's a real complicated answer because within our group, I would not allow that to happen.
Okay.
You're not going to wear a black gi, right? And it's like, what I would say, the conversation would be like, does that company have a white gi or blue gi, something that we allow
how can we accommodate
at the academy? If you and your livelihood depend on wearing that, then there's probably another school that is available to you. I wouldn't be upset, but I can't let one person just mess up the rules for everyone else and what we're trying to create. So I don't want to take money out of someone's pocket, but at the same time, I think there's always going to be a accommodation that works out. Like we can always talk about it. We can always work it out. And then again, Ann is sponsored by Show Your Roll. They send her some cool stuff, but it's all white or blue. So it's like they help us facilitate that thing. And we have this conversation all the time with guys that are new to the association or they try to get mentored by me. And most of the time what I tell them is like one of the biggest changes you can make probably to better your academy is to make very defined rules. Let everyone know what you expect out of them. And I don't try to push those rules on them. Like if they wanted a black gi, make that your rule. Whatever, man. That's on you. But at least they know where I'm coming from. And if I'm coming from a place that's pure of heart, then I don't think I'm wrong.
No, and then they can respect also the universal acceptance of it. It's not like you're allowing for like certain people to kind of subside the rules because of certain variables. You're saying, hey, the same way it's for the white belt, it's for the black belt with all the sponsors. And I think that's admirable. That's why I kind of brought that up, because I'm like, well, let me throw that one out there. If you don't mind, I'd like to briefly touch on your MMA career.
Yeah.
Because you did compete in the cage, right? And one of the things I wanted to ask was, you did karate. You really pursued jiu-jitsu. Yeah. What and why did you ever want to do MMA?
Why? So 2010, I had fought one time, and you know who Jeff Powell is?
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff was running shows in Colombia like 2003, something like that, way back in the day.
By the way, I know of Jeff. Okay. I don't know him.
Super good guy. He was having a show, and I go, you know what, man? Like, been training a while. I think I just got my purple belt or something, and I'm like, I want to get out there and fight. Like I competed in everything I did. I go, I like to do an MMA fight. So that proof of, I wasn't going out there to be an MMA fighter. I was going out there to prove that my jiu-jitsu worked. And that throughout my limited career in MMA, that's all I was there to do, right? I enjoyed striking. I enjoyed the clinch. I enjoyed the takedowns. But a college wrestler is going to take me down. A great striker is going to knock me out. And when we get to the ground, I got a really good shot of submitting somebody. So I knew my strengths, I knew my weaknesses, and I think that's part of the game. And after I won the Pan title, Jesse Finney called me, and they were bringing Strikeforce to St. Louis for like the first time. And I had always dreamed of fighting in Japan. I'd always like, just because of the tradition, because of everything else, because of my karate background, I always like, man, I'd love to have like a real fight in Japan and maybe do an MMA fight over there. And I was like, dang, man, it'd be really cool to fight in front of like 10,000 people here in my hometown. So thought about it, and I was already in incredible shape because I was already like walking around 135 pounds from competing. And I'm like, well, if there's a better time to do it, I'm 34, 33, 34. I'm like,
now's the time.
Let's go. So it kind of shifted gears. Went in, started training with my buddy Kyle some. And I got to say that.
Kyle Watson?
Oh, of course.
I thought you hated him.
Oh, I do hate him. I hate to love him. Talking about kindness, guys at St. Charles in Miami, Mike talked to me. He's like, hey, I heard you're going to fight. Let me have Sampo come over and help you. So Sampo came over and helped me a couple times, train. And, man, those guys, that's what they do, right? I mean, great wrestlers, great ground and pound. It was good to get those looks and to get honest opinions of, like, what I needed help on. So Kyle had brought some guys from the hit squad over and gave me some different looks.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Sorry.
Got to fight. Man, I think I sold like 450 tickets.
God damn.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
For those that are not initiated, that's an insane number of tickets.
Yeah,
brother.
Yeah. So,
I think the average fighter will sell
curious.
anywhere between 15 and 30.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I know that Ann I think has the record for that CX BJJ now too. So like, our people support us. Like we're lucky to have a good network.
Yeah, it shows you that support system that you have behind you.
Yeah. So I had no illusions of grandeur. I had this one pro fight on Strikeforce and won in like 90 seconds. Choked the guy. I was lucky that it all went my way. It was perfect game plan. Everything kind of worked. And man, how fun, right? You've been there. It's
the
like
highest of highs, brother.
Oh man, and just a great time. And oh man, who was Matt Hughes' manager at that time? He was managing Kyle too. Mark Fury. Okay, contacted me. And he's like, hey, you've got 2 wins. He goes, what if you fight another time and I put you in the UFC? And I'm like, oh, man. Didn't really see that coming. Didn't really see that curveball coming. And I'm like, okay, well.
What year is this? Like 2010?
2010.
Okay.
So I fought in the Pans in April and fought December of 2010 was Strikeforce. And like, okay, yeah. So there was another tournament I wanted to do. I went and fought in the Las Vegas Open. And then I was like, I'll do another MMA fight. And that was when I was starting to feel I had to have shoulder surgery after my Strikeforce fight. Something just didn't feel right. And I found out that my labrum was 100% detached. So my shoulder was just kind of hanging there. I'm like, well, okay, that's why it hurts. Okay. So I got it fixed, rehabbed it. And I took my third MMA fight was Veterans Day, November 11th of 11. And I was supposed to be the co-main event, and it was Fight Me. Remember that? Fight Hard, Fight Me?
Before Fight Hard, it was
okay, Fight Me. And I was out of town for the first one. This was like their second one. And they're like, hey, our main event got hurt. You're main event now. I'm like, oh, man, okay. I kind of picked the guy I was going to fight against. I apologize. I can't remember his name right now, but just a tough kid from Granite City, man. I was like, this is going to be a good, tough fight. But I knew, like, if I got to the ground, man, we're going to get to the ground sometime, and I feel like I could submit him. And I blew my ACL out 4 days before the fight. So I was warming up, told the guy, don't catch my legs. Like, I'm still warming up. It's still cold. I mean, we're November. He caught my leg and kind of turned it, and my knee goes snap, and I fell down. I was like, oh, my God. And it didn't swell up. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not that bad. Next day I came in, threw a punch, fell down. Had no stability on my knee. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, the show had already had their main event drop.
So you felt a lot of pressure.
Here's 2 mistakes I made. I had so many sponsors that I was like, I'm going to let all these people down. right? And it's like, man, they've already given me the money. They've already said, you know, man, we're gonna.
That's tough,
dude.
That's tough. Now you feel obligation.
I'm like, I got to get out there. And here's what I didn't have. I didn't have anybody smart enough to tell me don't.
Even if you did, do you think you would have listened?
That's a great question. I can't answer. I don't know. I don't know. So I didn't do anything.
Considering some of these variables, because if I was put in your position, even if I had someone,
I would
have been like, dude, what can I do?
Yeah.
You're right. I shouldn't do this, but
I just
sometimes fate deals us a hand.
It does, and I go, okay. So I like KT taped it, like didn't even wear a knee brace out there because I knew that there was something going, but I didn't even go to the doctor. I was like, here we go. One of my cornermen goes, hey, listen, he's going to hit you, and when you hit you, you're going to get a hold of him. You're going to get him to the ground. And I'm like, well, that seems like sound logic, right? Not thinking whatever. So I take the fight, warming up, my knee pops out again in the back, right in the arena, St. Charles Arena, and I'm like, holy shit, like, am I going to be able to stand when I get out there? So I get out there, get to the clinch, and I'm like, I'm done. I mean, I'm feeling like I've got my throw. I'm going to do it, and I went to move, and my knee snaps, and you ever had any ACL problems?
No.
So
Dude, knock on wood.
What it feels like is it feels like your two bones go out of line. So it literally felt like my shin was pointed in the wrong direction. And if I could ever find a videotape, you can see me. I back away out of the clinch that I wanted, and I start kicking my leg, and I'm trying to get my leg to go back into place. And I'm like, this is bad. This is bad. And I'm like, all right, man, just stand here. I'm like, he's going to blast me. I go, when he blasts me, I'm going to grab hold of him. He did. He hit me really hard, cut my eye. I got a hold of him, got him to the ground, and I'm like, thank God, right? Thank God. And I mean, I don't feel like I'm there 4 seconds, and the referee's like, get to work or I'm standing you up. I'm like, dude, give me some sec. Give me some time,
break,
you know? Yeah. And I don't really I think England was the referee. He's done a bunch of...
Rest in peace.
Okay, right. And I just, I'm like, man, I felt like he stood me up too really quick, but I think it's just more me and where I wanted to be. And literally, I think I pulled guard again, and the round ends. And I'm so calm, and I remember I'm bleeding, and my cornerman forgets my water, and I go, hey, man, go get my water. He gets my water, and they're like, how you doing? I'm like, dude, I can't move my leg. I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I just, in my mind, I'm super calm. I'm just dealing with it. I'm like, I just went through a whole round not being able to move a leg. I'm like, I can make it. I can do this. Like, even if I lose, like, I'm going to make it through this fight. And I went out, threw an overhand right, and my knee collapsed, and I fell. And luckily, the guy swung at my head and hit the mat while I got a picture of me, and I'm holding my knee because it's just like that shock of like, oh, my knee, and the referee stopped it. So I don't know if the referee thought I got knocked out or what, but luckily for me, I didn't get hurt.
Well, I mean, you did. You tore an ACL.
I did.
So I know what you mean. Like, you didn't get hurt in the fight.
I didn't get hurt in the fight. So got stitched up backstage, and my knee was killing me. And I remember like the next day going, okay, time to go to the doctor. And I go, I'm done with this shit. And I remember that was kind of the thing. Like, I had a surgery after the first one, surgery after the second one. I'm like, I'm at the age where like I don't have anything to prove to anybody in the MMA world. I'm going to have to fight a bunch more times to get to the UFC, which really never was my destination. But that carrot that was being dangled.
It was an incentive.
It was. And again, man, I made good money fighting. So I don't think a lot of people can say that. Like, I had tons of sponsors, sold tons of tickets. So it's like it made it worth the time and effort of putting in. But it just become like, okay, well, like if I've got to fight and then have a surgery every single time afterwards, it doesn't make sense.
My last fight, to give you some semblance as well, is like that was the fight where I made the most as well. I think I sold like 250 tickets. Like it was all about awesome. Me. You know what I mean? All this other stuff. I think all in all, I probably walked away with like 10. Yeah. 10 flat. You know what I mean? And the majority of that was like things that I did, not necessarily like the payout from the promotion, but the things that I did behind the scenes. And I remember I lost, and then people were like saying like, well, how can you walk away from this? How can you walk away from this? I'm like, guys, I hate to say it this way, and maybe you'll resonate with me, or maybe you won't, but like if you were to take the amount of hours that I spent training and dieting and getting ready for this fight, $10K turns out to be like minimum wage.
It's peanuts.
Yeah. So I had to explain to them, I'm like, and I will say this too, it was at a different time in my life. When I first started fighting, I was 20 years old. I didn't have 2 pennies I could rub together. You were talking about how like when you traveled to New York and like there was no opportunity cost. That's how I felt. I was like, what else would I be doing with my time? Might as well train, you know what I mean? Let's fight.
It becomes anything else. Like to me, it was a fun aspect of what you said.
I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did it.
And it's like, for me though, it was an avenue. Jiu-jitsu took me down an avenue that I would have never gotten the opportunity to do. And I'm like, wow. Once again, jiu-jitsu opens a door, takes me someplace that I get this experience to be in front of 10,000 people, right? And them, cheering and being a great time. And then I'm on the other end of it. So it gives me some humility of going like, okay, now I was in front of like 8,000 people and I'm sitting here with my knee in half. So it's a good
I
lesson.
resonate with that so much.
Yeah.
Because I think to myself, I had all these wins, I had all these great moments, but then at the last time, it was the most humiliating / humbling thing, because I told you I sold 250 tickets. 250 people are there to see me, and then that's the one I lose, right?
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, and the things that I do now and the way I carry myself it's kind of transcended MMA. I'm a cocky motherfucker. I am. You know what I mean? However, there are times where I think to myself, like, dude, you better shut the fuck up. Like, slow your roll, Arion.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to, they can look up a YouTube video of you getting your ass beat. So slow your roll.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that like everyone should have that. By all means, if you can learn that lesson without getting hurt, do it. But what I am saying is, even that, going back to the thing I was saying about like my wife, even that, everything had to have happened the way it happened for me to arrive here today, and I'm glad it did.
It's writing your story, and that helped us both gain a little bit of humility, but it probably pushed us in good ways, right?
Yeah, I don't want that to happen again.
100%.
In business, in my fight.
100%.
I never want to feel that. It's not about losing the fight. It's the emotions that accompany it. The feeling of failure, the feeling of letting people down, the feeling of like, I didn't rise to the occasion. Yeah. That's what I never want to feel again.
I love that that's something too in jiu-jitsu that we always go through, that, this is the first time that Ann had fought in front of a hometown crowd, right, at this show. And she was way more nervous, right? Sure. Way more nervous. And I'm like, hey, this is a great experience for you. And we all kind of need that to put that pressure, but it's going to show you something else. If you win, everybody's going to support you. Everybody's happy. If you lose, people are still going to support you. People are still going to be your biggest fan. And it's always important for me to understand, like when my students go out there like, well, man, I just don't want to let you down. Listen, if you train hard and you do everything you can, a byproduct of training is winning and losing. I go, I don't care. I truly don't care. Go, you do everything in your power to be the best version of yourself. You go out there and get your ass kicked. I'm not going to look down on you. I'm not going to feel bad about it. And it's hard for people to realize that, right? And especially instructors. We go out there and you had 250 people out there. You feel like you disappointed them, but you didn't. They're proud of you. They're proud that you were the man. They're proud that you were out there. And it's something.
I didn't lose any respect. I didn't lose any friends. But it's funny that you say that, because these are all the things that we can say now with hindsight.
Oh, 100%.
But I'm sure, just like with you, just like with me, in that moment,
they suck.
It's very few moments were that low.
Right. Oh, yeah,
you know what I mean?
For sure.
Now I look back on it with like no problem, but like if you would have talked to me that week, I was not fun in the crowd.
I remember like the day after my best friend came and picked me up and we were going deer hunting, and I was like, couldn't see out of this eye. Couldn't walk around. And I go, like drive me to the tree stand, man. What's going on? He's like, I'll take care of you, buddy. Whatever. But it's like, this sucks.
I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. Again, a fun experience that few get. Few get that high, being at that high and that low, and having that experience. And I always say, like, the trials and tribulations are what make us, right? And it's like what we are, the phoenix that rises out of those ashes of like, what are we going to be? What version of ourselves? And I just think it's neat. It's neat that we've had. You've got a lot more journey than I got left, but
I'll never say never, brother.
I'm just blessed that I've been able to experience a whole lot within the martial arts industry, and I still feel like I got years and years left of these great experiences. So
brings me back to my very first question that I asked you in this conversation. What was the goal when you started?
Yeah,
and what is the goal now?
The goal when I started was just to train and enjoy it. That's it. So I get to train and enjoy it every day. So I'm very lucky that the goal was pretty reached, but I would say that we never really can map out where our lives are going to go and how they're going to go, because there's just too many detours, right? Oh man, I could probably write a book on the crazy stuff that outside of martial arts is happening in my life. But it's all built me into the person I am now. That I probably have more patience because of it, because of all these other things. what I want to see now and what I'm trying to do now, and I try to say this a certain way, I'm trying to be that person that is standing strong and steady so others can stand on my shoulders and reach new heights, right? But I'm also trying to be that person that doesn't let them push me under the water with all their weight, right? So I think that's a very, very fine line that you're trying to help people, but not overextend yourself by
Or be taken advantage of.
100%. And I get better at that all the time, but it's just, by the time we figure it all out, then we don't have any time left.
Can I piggyback off that? Yeah. When we were talking about Phil and how you were saying that, like, and I'm only bringing this up because of that notion of, like, standing on my shoulders, so that, that the saying is, like, I stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And then how do you pick and choose the moments to, let's say with like a Phil, to push him harder than he wants to push himself, and then sometimes with other people maybe not doing that? Because I think there's a science to that as well, of like knowing who and when, and sometimes you don't for those reasons. How do you kind of deduce that in your own head? Like, why Phil? Why Mop? Why not this person? Why not that person?
Well,
without getting too personal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And you got to think of it too, is like you've got to be respected enough by that person that they want to listen.
Fair.
Right? So you can't be a teacher without a student.
Agreed.
So the time and effort that I've put into these guys until this point is what's built that relationship that they'll listen, right? And it's hard. It's hard. And like we said earlier, like me wanting more for these guys than they probably want for themselves that's me. That's my at fault, but it's not going to stop me for wanting, right? So when do we see it? Deficiency is our guide to enlightenment. Okay. So when I say that, is if like, you see something deficient, if you know there's a problem, if you can pinpoint it, it'll show you exactly what you need to do, right? You'll know how to improve. You'll know what you need to do. You may not know the steps, but you'll know the starting point of what I need to do to fix it. So I just try to be very picky and choosy whenever I see something that I think can be improved. When I see a little deficiency in someone, it may be a person that just doesn't allow anyone else to talk and go, hey man, you're taking all the air in the room, right? Why don't you let some other people talk? Having the guts, having the confidence to know I can have that conversation. I can say that to somebody and they know I'm not being rude with it. They know I'm just trying to be like, oh, he's mentoring me. Oh shit. Like I'm okay. I get it. If you really look at it, Phil in Wentzville has done 99.9% of all the hard work to be successful. He's running that school. He's doing everything there. Like he's the man. All I can do is, and this happens again, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but last week I was like, hey dude, you're working too hard. You need to take a few days off, right?
That's hard to tell an entrepreneur, baby.
100%.
Because you're telling them to take time away from their baby.
100%. And why is it important? Why is it important?
Because you're going to burn yourself out the same way an athlete does.
100%.
So you're going to start hating your baby.
Most super successful people that I've talked to are very much in tune with that moment of like, I'm getting burnt, right? Where I'm trying to help these guys understand like 2 days off means nothing. Take 2 days off.
Or it should mean nothing.
100%.
Because if you can't take 2 days off,
then your business is not.
Then it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable.
So there's multiple levels of it, right? So it may be like telling someone that they're actually working too hard. That might be something little. It might be telling a coach that they're coaching too much at a tournament or something. Telling them like, hey man, just little things that I'm seeing is maybe something they could change with. It could be their attitude, the way they run their business, the way they teach a class, whatever it may be. And that's just my opinion for them. There's other ways that they could handle it, but I hope that I'm opening their ears to where they go, I need to look at this and see how I can improve it. So that's it. And it's not, I'm trying to think of another analogy. Trying to think of what I had the guys talk. The conversation point that I used with my Monday night meeting this month was, should a jiu-jitsu school, MMA school owner be available 7 days a week?
No.
Okay.
What is your answer? Forgive me.
my answer should be my answer alone, not your answer. And I think that's what I got everybody to kind of think
Well,
about.
I'm curious though.
Yeah.
Should they be?
No,
What do you think?
No, I think you got to have your personal time.
I think that a 9 to 5 is healthy.
It's healthy. I have to educate my affiliates and my students that it is 10 p.m. Don't message me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, dude.
Right.
But it better be good. It better be life on the line.
But you would not believe how many people feel anytime they want to. We're so easily connected. We're so easily social media, everything else. Well, I'm free right now. I got the question. Can I ask this to you? And I'm like, no.
Well, hold up though. I think there's a caveat of like someone sending a text message and like awaiting until the next day to be responded to.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I guess when you say like, should you be available? What I'm thinking you mean is like, can my boss call me at 9 p.m. to tell me to start working on something?
Yeah.
And my response to you would be like, what's the salary?
100%.
Right? Like what is that value to you and me? And then let's meet in the middle. So like, I'm going to take my answer back. I would tell you, it depends on what they're paying that monthly subscription for. If they're paying $500 a month, you better believe I'm available 7 days a week.
100%.
If they're paying $150 a month in the year of our Lord 2025, no. Yeah. You got me Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 9 or 7 p.m., whatever.
But what I did with that conversation is I showed that every single instructor on that, I think we had like 25 guys on that call.
Had a different answer.
Yep. You know why? Some of them are like, man, I want to be available because I don't want them thinking that their time's not worthy. I want to be in. It was just a matter of like, the follow up to it? Does your students know this? Do they know when you're available? So what I was trying to get the point across to these guys is like, you can be available 7 days a week if you want to be, right? But it's on you. It's you educating your students to like when they can contact you. If they have your personal cell phone, I think that's a mistake anyway. But if they do, if you're that, if you have that kind of relationship, or you have that, I call it a small business. Like if you have a small business where that's the only phone you have and they're still texting you, tell them that there's like, it's not okay to text you at midnight and ask a jiu-jitsu question, right? It's not okay to send that video and ask if that technique really works. And I get it all the time. And the reality, though, is it's about learning to set boundaries with your students and let them know that you're not just their buddy, you're the boss.
Yeah.
And that was really my whole concept behind it. But it wasn't a conversation that I thought my answer should have been everybody's. It was like, my answer is my answer. Like, I try to tell people, I go, if me and you are in business in any way, and I have an idea at noon on Saturday, it waits till 8 a.m. Monday to send the email. That's just how I am. I'm like, I'm not going to mess around with your weekend. I'm like, even if you told me I work weekends, I don't care, because I think I want you to have some kind of personal time where, again, we all are, as entrepreneurs, are pretty much workaholics. I hate to have a message not be replied to, but I've gotten to a habit over the years of not replying until Monday.
Well, you know what you're not? You're not a hypocrite, because here's the problem. There's a lot of people that will message me. So I have to be careful how I say this. I am that guy. If like we're working on something and you call me at 1 a.m. and I'm up, I'm also 32.
Right.
You feel me?
Right.
But the other thing is, like, I don't expect that from someone else. So like my whole thing is like, okay, if you're gonna call me at 1 a.m, you better pick up the phone 100%. When I call you at 1 a.m. And if you don't, then don't fucking call me.
100%.
That's my thing. Is like I always say, I will give the energy that I get. So if you call me between 8 and 5, guess what I'm going to call you?
Yep.
If you don't text me after 10, guess what I'm not going to text you?
But you've set your own boundaries.
Yeah. Well, I always say I reciprocate. It was the same way I trained. Whenever I would spar or I would roll in jiu-jitsu or whatever, right. I'm like, hey, buddy, I want you to know you're going to set the pace and I'm going to match your pace. And that's the way I do everything else in life.
I used to call that choose your adventure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If you want to come hard, all right.
Just let me know. Just let me know.
We're gonna find out quick.
I'm willing to dance the dance. I just need to know.
Yeah. 100%.
So, JW, man, I appreciate you coming down here and spending the last 2 hours with me.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been fun.
I hope it was enjoyable.
Yeah, it was a good time.
I open the door always. You know what I mean. Yep. Later on in life, I would definitely like to have you back on, and maybe we'd talk about, hopefully. We were talking earlier about like you have some things cooking for jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Maybe one day we can have you back on and we can discuss it. You know what I mean? I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
I'll see you around more than anything, and more than anything, I've known about you. We've been in proximity for a long time now. Right. It's a shame that it took this long to sit down and talk with you, but I'm glad it did happen.
Well, thanks for having me, man, and I appreciate just wanting to know about a little bit about the history I bring to the community and what we're trying to do. And I enjoy that you're out talking to so many different people. I love that you're not pigeonholed just to being a martial arts talk, podcast. You're getting out there. You're doing a lot of different people with a lot of different conversations. It's been enjoyable to listen to. So keep it up, man.
I appreciate that. And I will end with this. The biggest reason that I wanted to sit down and talk with you, and I mean this as a compliment, is there are people that I respect, and to hear how they talk about you is like, oftentimes they say like, you'll know someone's true intentions behind closed doors. And I'm telling you right now, I've never heard a bad thing. Everybody, the way from Mop to Phil and everybody, you developed a really good network. You've developed a really good like mentorship, and the proof is in the pudding, man.
Well, I said it earlier, but I'm the luckiest guy alive, right? I get to do the best job. I get to help people make a living through an art. Oh my gosh, right? And again, when you're doing something you love, they say it's not a job. We know it's work. It's hard work. It's a lot of work. But I get to see my kids, those jiu-jitsu instructors, living a life that they probably never could have dreamed of. Probably Mop would have never known he'd been where he's at as a he doesn't even have his mop anymore. He used to be a long-haired, Mop.
He's a businessman now.
He's a businessman now. So it's like, man, I watch these guys mature, grow, and now they're leaders. And for me, that's very, very special. I'm just, I hope I've been a help to somebody. I hope that I can continue to be help and help to mentor more people and hopefully make a little difference in people's lives. And man, what a lucky guy I am.
JW, man. God bless.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you for being on, man.
Appreciate it.